This week on the channel, I took myself on an adventure to explore some of the great outdoors and to get rowdy on some savage downhill trails. And boy did this adventure pay off.
Woo. I forgot how steep this is. This is nuts. Oh my god, this is so wet and loose.
For this exciting ride, I'm out in the Peak District. There are a couple of downhill trail areas that I'm keen to take another look at, and they're spaced a short distance apart, so I'm going to be heading over the moors to try and link them together. And of course, if I survive the downhill, I'll have to find my way back too. The start point for today's ride is Lady Cannings Plantation, where there are a couple of exciting trails to warm us up. And when I say warm up, I don't mean it figuratively.
So I'm pretty much one of those people that believes that there are only two real seasons, especially for mountain biking. There's the one where the trails are dry, you can ride until 10 o'clock at night just wearing a t-shirt, and then there's this one, which is the opposite. So here in the UK it's that time of year where it's dark by 3:30, 4 o'clock in the evening. A lot of the off-piste trails are now just bogs and muddy quagmires, so there's only a certain amount of trails you can really ride. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm up at Lady Cannings Plantation and I'm planning to start here and do a bit of a mission to explore a couple of potential winter trails. Let's get to it. So I'm at the top of Lady Cannings. This is the sort of mellower of the two trails, so we'll hit this one first for a bit of a warm-up.
This trail is called Cooking on Gas, and I categorise this as a bit of an adventure trail. By that I mean it has a few interesting lumps and bumps dotted around the place, but you have to keep pedalling for most of it. When these trails were originally made, they were really smooth, but as the wet weather arrives, it tends to wash away the top layer, leaving the rock underneath. And this is just what happens with all these kinds of trails. But the reason I've come to check these out today is to test this hard packed surface underneath. It may not be the smoothest riding surface, but it's all weather and it's still good fun. This means that this place can be a good winter riding venue. Also, this place is maintained by a local organisation called Ride Sheffield. These guys are really active in maintaining trails, so they're regularly out repairing and resurfacing single track just like the ones here. So you know these trails are going to be in good condition. So with the first trail finished, it's time to get back to the top so we can ride the faster trail.
So at the moment I'm literally riding up a river. There's so much water coming down here. See what I mean about only two seasons? Okay, so this is the start of the second trail called Blue Steel. I remember this one being a bit more exciting than the first one.
It certainly is. This is a great trail by any standard. It's full of berms, rollers and rocks, and all packed into a fast and interesting line down to the bottom of the woods. You can roll everything on here if you want, because it's a blue trail after all. But with a bit of speed, this trail really does get interesting. As you can see, Blue Steel gets pretty rapid, pretty quick. It feels like you're flying in and out of the trees on a winding trail that's trying to throw you off left and right. And this is why I love it. It's so much fun. You need to be fast and agile on this trail, and you get to throw some interesting shapes on your way down. Just watch out for the trees. I think I said it last time I was here, but this is a well-designed, built and maintained trail. There's literally not a dull moment on here, and despite not having the steepest elevation ever, this trail does really well to carry at speed. Because this trail is protected by the woods, it's quite well sheltered from the wind. Now, I know there's a lot of wind noise from the camera at the moment, but you'll notice a big difference once I head out of the protection of the trees. So this protection and a stable riding surface will really come in handy for somewhere to ride when the weather gets even worse. So at a fairly decent pace, this trail is a good 2.5 minutes long. And although you may be thinking that certain sections look a bit challenging, they are nothing in comparison to the downhill trails I get to ride next. But first, I've got to get to them.
That was great. I remember that being a really fun one, and it didn't disappoint. Awesome. Right, back to the top. So you can see the effect that the running water and rain has already had on the trails here. Could be a long winter. There's a lot of trails going to need a lot of maintenance come spring and summertime. Not that spring exists, of course. Okay, I'm back at the top where the trails start, but this time we're heading up and out. So I'm leaving the relative safety of Lady Cannings Plantation, and I'm actually heading across, well, what I think is going to be moorland to another trail that I've not ridden in a very long time. It was pretty intense. It's called Devil's Elbow at Blackamoor, and I remember it being quite full on last time, so we'll see how it's doing in the winter conditions. So I love a good designated trail as much as the next rider, but there's something awesome about being in the outdoors where there are no sort of designated trails. You're making your own lines up, and I mean, look, at the moment there's no one here. The sun's shining. This is lovely. Bring it on. So I've got some pretty epic views here. I think there's a trail over there, and that's where I'm heading. So I better get a move on.
So I honestly forgot how much I enjoy day trips like this. I spend a lot of time riding bike parks, trail centres and off-piste, but my first love of the outdoors was always going on adventures. Now, I know that a ride in the peak may not exactly be exploring the unknown, but there's something exciting about riding somewhere new and exploring new routes. Not to mention, it's great fitness. This route that I'm taking is a really well-trodden path for riders. With two great trail locations relatively close together, it can be a good start section to a much longer and more challenging day riding in the peaks. Today I'm riding my full suspension enduro bike. Not exactly anyone's first choice for a long distance trail ride like this, especially on some of the rocky uphills, but when I get to this next trail you'll see exactly why I've chosen to ride this bike today.
So I've just got to the top of the hill on my little transition between downhill trails. This way, absolutely lovely. Blue sky, couple of clouds, no problem. But if I look this way, which happens to be the way I'm going, not so nice.
Realising that I was now racing the weather, I got a wriggle on. And before long, I'd arrived at the next trail.
Lovely, here we are, the second location. Welcome to Blackamoor.
The Devil's Elbow is an extremely fun trail. If I was going to describe it to you in one word, it would be rocks. Yes, this first section is relatively smooth and flowing, with perhaps a few roots to look out for, but before long you'll get to see what I mean about the rocks. Once you pick up speed, this is where the fun begins. The trail basically takes you on a fast and winding blast through the top section of the woods. Even at this stage you have to make quick choices about the lines you want to take and what features you want to ride, or avoid. Although I've ridden this trail in the past, it was a long time ago, and I really don't remember much about it. Well, apart from the rocks. But this trail really does deserve your respect. After all, what could be more terrifying than bombing it down a technical descent and seeing the crazy features that you're about to ride over? Well, not seeing the crazy features you're about to ride over.
I have no idea what the heck I'm riding over.
This last section before reaching the bend in the trail gets a bit sketchy, especially when wet. There are a couple of different line options down here, and I'm not convinced I picked the best one. But it was either the off-camber wet routes or the ditch, so I chose the ditch, but still good fun to ride.
Awesome. So I've just got to the elbow bit of the Devil's Elbow, and this is the trail down here. But as you can see, the signs, Ride Sheffield are actually maintaining the trail today. So I'm going to take it a bit easy down here because firstly I don't want to run anyone over. But I might be able to give them a bit of a hand if they're out for a bit longer. So let's go and see.
Here you can start to see a few rocks creeping onto the trail. But before we go full send, off camera, one of the trail crew said that there's a group working close to the top of this section. So I took this first bit really cautiously. But this is what I was talking about earlier. Ride Sheffield are out working today on this very trail. They're patching up a few holes and improving the drainage just to keep the trail running properly. After a little chat commending their hard work and offering my services in future dig days, I continued on my way down to the bottom of the trail. Despite not being able to ride that last chunk of trail, the best bits are still to come. From here on out, it's a challenging trail filled with numerous different line options. You could ride this trail a number of times and still not ride the same line. I think I picked a pretty good line through most of the sections, but there were definitely more challenging options that you could go for. Hopefully now you can see why I decided to bring my full suspension bike with me. This is a pretty bumpy and committing trail in places, and although I'm sure it looks flat as a pancake on camera, it really isn't in real life. From memory, this is graded as a black trail, and I can see why. So just be careful if you're thinking about coming to ride this. The conditions today are pretty wintry here, and with the work that Ride Sheffield are doing above, this makes this trail pretty rideable in the winter. Although remembering that this is a bridleway, it will have wet and muddy sections that will become much harder in the dead of winter. Worse conditions will certainly make a challenging trail just that bit harder. So finally, coming towards the end of the trail, things start to smooth out a bit and the trail starts to calm down. A truly epic Peak District descent.
Woohoo! Yes, that is one amazing trail. Now, I've not ridden that in a long time and I forgot how absolutely amazing it is. Such a good little trail. And great to see Ride Sheffield out doing what they do best. Just doing some maintenance, weatherproofing it. Awesome organisation. So like I said on the ride over, a bike like this was fundamental for my success of getting down the Devil's Elbow. But when it comes to steep push-ups back up, it's not exactly in its element. But then saying that, I don't think you're getting up this on any type of bike. This is hiker bike territory.
Yes, walking with the bike sucks, but it wouldn't be long before I was back on the saddle and heading back towards Lady Cannings.
You see, I moan about this bike being a bad climber, but for an enduro bike, it's really not. Now, I've put an oval chainring on here as well. Love them or hate them, I think it really works on this. But I'm riding up this loose, sort of chossy ground. There's sort of rocks and stuff everywhere, and it's handling it absolutely fine. So, yeah, it may not be as good as a trail bike, but it's not bad. Not at all.
But before long, my enduro bike was back where it belongs, looking downhill towards a load of loose, janky rocks. The perfect way to end a truly epic ride. So, hope you enjoyed this video today. Remember to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Don't forget to like the video and leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.